Critical thinking is, well, critical. We can't understand the world around us without it. More importantly, we can't distinguish between truth and falsehood online, where we get most of our information. In this video, we introduce the concept of critical thinking and skepticism, then examine different types of speech, especially hate speech and free speech. It is okay to be wrong, but many of us have our identity tied up in our beliefs and refuse to change our minds even when confronted with factual contrary evidence. Critical thinking is defined as the ability to objectively analyze and evaluate an issue in order to form a judgment. It is now more important than ever given the amount of information that we are exposed to online. Surveys show that people are easily duped into believing falsehoods and tend to make conclusions based on emotions and pre-existing biases rather than evidence and reason. Kahneman classifies our thinking into two modes. System 1 is fast, intuitive, and automatic. It is based more on emotion and heuristics. A heuristic is a quick and easy way of solving a problem, but isn't always right. System 2 is slower and more analytical, where reason predominates. This system is more likely to be correct. It is this second mode of critical thinking that we need to engage in more often. We often think we know more than we do, and in fact, the less we know about something, the more we think we know about it. Dunning and Kruger in 1999 found that those who performed worse on an autism knowledge test believed they knew more than the medical community, and 71% of those who believed vaccines caused autism asserted superior knowledge on the subject. This overestimation of one's ability is called the illusory superiority effect. But there is some hope here. People can be trained to think more critically. A 2015 study showed participants an explanatory video on their logical mistakes, or in another condition were asked to play interactive video games designed to decrease bias. When they were presented with similar problems months later, those with this type of training were less likely to repeat their errors and were better able to identify dubious claims. People as a whole need to become more skeptical, doubting information and questioning it rather than assuming it is true. That does not mean that we should doubt all evidence. Science in the long run does generate truth, as does the application of reason and logic. It is the method rather than the specific conclusions that we must believe in. If we apply proper methods consistently, then we do arrive at the truth. If instead we succumb to emotion and comforting fictions, then we are not only wrong, but can be easily duped and manipulated by others. We saw earlier that flat earthers and other conspiracy theorists believe only the claims that support their own position, while denying other legitimate scientific evidence. These are not skeptics, but denialists. This demonstrates that we need to be open-minded to all of the evidence, even that which conflicts with our prior beliefs. In other words, we need to be able to change our minds. Now let's talk about types of speech. Hate speech is bad, and arguments can be made that it does cause harm in some cases. But equally important is false speech. Hate speech is emotional, while false speech is an error and thus a cognitive process. Neither should be countered with more hate, as that just inflames the situation. Both should be countered with more free speech. It is worth listening to what others have to say, even if they disagree with you for a variety of reasons. We might be completely right, but still learn something new. We could be partially right and have our viewpoint corrected or refined. Or we could be completely wrong, which allows us to change our mind. So in other words, don't be scared of what other people have to say. The worst thing we can do is force people to not speak, because then they will be driven underground where they will only talk to people who already agree with them. If a person is wrong or hateful, they should be called out on it in public. Their claims should be countered with facts, evidence, and reason. Denying people free speech frequently backfires. It allows them to say they are being silenced, and this oftentimes provides them with undue media attention and turns them into the victims of censorship. There's nothing wrong with being wrong. It feels uncomfortable, but that is reality telling us we've made a mistake and that we need to do a course correction. By doing this, we all become better people. Our identities should be defined less by our beliefs and more by our capacity to think. There are some people who are so ideologically entrenched that they can never be convinced. These individuals will not respond to reason and evidence. But a significant number of people are still open-minded enough that they can be convinced. It is important that we identify these people and not waste our time with the others. The worst thing we can do is to denigrate or insult those who disagree with us, which is simply counterproductive. In conclusion, objectivity, reason, logic, science, and truth are the values towards which we should aspire both as individuals and as a society. We should guard against bias, overconfidence, and close-mindedness.